Every Monster Hunter game that has released, it's always been debated whether it's best to capture or kill your targets. And in Monster Hunter Wilds, it is no different. Everyone is always going to want to know the most efficient way for farming up all of the resources that you're going to need to make your armor and weapons. And today we're going to dive directly into that for Monster Hunter Wilds. For many people, Monster Hunter Wilds may be your first Monster Hunter game, and understanding the trap system and how it can be most efficiently used is incredibly important and will definitely help speed up hunts. So first, let's explain how the trap system works, so that way we can better understand it, and then we're going to go over the pros and cons of why you might want to hunt versus capture. There are two different types of traps that you can use. You can use the shock trap or the pitfall trap, and to make these you're going to need trap tools and nets to be able to make the pitfall trap, and then trap tools and thunderbug capacitors for the shock traps. So personally, what I like to do is I always like to carry one of each of the traps, because that's all you can do, then two trap tools, so that way I can make two more traps on the fly while I'm hunting, which means I then have to carry my nets and my thunderbug capacitors with me. Being able to make multiple traps comes in handy for varying reasons, and we'll get into those. Now, having these equipped onto your radial menu is incredibly useful. You're also going to need trank bombs if you do plan on actually capturing your target. You can use traps without capturing, but trank bombs will be used to capture your target while it's inside of a trap when it's at low health. Now, one of the best additions to the game is if you do use a trap, you can now actually retrieve that trap, and it'll go back into your inventory if, say, the monster runs away from it into a new area after you had just put it down. Now, traps can be used for far more than just capturing targets towards the end of a fight. They are incredibly useful during the fight. Say a monster enrages, or you're just dealing with one that's particularly annoying for you. You can use these traps to lock them down in place and dealing a ton of damage while they're stuck in the trap. This is why I like carrying multiple traps and being able to craft them on the fly. This becomes incredibly useful when you are trying to target specific parts of the body that are otherwise harder to hit for your particular class. So you need to focus on breaking a head or breaking feet or wings. Utilizing traps can make this process significantly easier. Now, the one thing to keep in mind that the more times you trap a specific monster, the less effective the traps will be. Every subsequent trap you use, it's going to be stuck in that trap for a shorter amount of time. Now, when it comes to actually capturing your target and ending the fight, you're going to need to wait until the monster has lost enough health to be able to be fully captured. You'll have an audio indicator of when this is the right time, because your pellicle will say the fight's almost over. This is usually at 20% or below health, and you can also tell because if you look down on your mini-map, you'll see a flashing skull on the monster's icon. If the target is able to actually be captured, this will be the moment to place down your trap and use your trank bombs to be able to put it to sleep. This will automatically give you any of the carvable rewards and ending the fight. I really like capturing my targets because I don't want to spend 20% more of my time fighting these creatures when I'm just trying to farm up items. This also becomes incredibly helpful when you're trying to speed through the story or deal with things that you don't want to, because why fight it for 20% longer? And there might actually be a reason for that, which we're going to get into when we actually study where parts drop from and how to acquire them. Now, this is where the monster field guide is going to come in very handy. If we go into the guide and hover over a monster, say the Gore Magala we were just fighting, you can gain all sorts of information that is incredibly useful. We can see that the wings are breakable, the antenna, the mouth is a weak point, and the tail is severable. You can also tell what weapons are going to do the most amount of damage to specific spots, and what elemental weaknesses it may or may not have. If you go to the detailed strategy, you can also see if it's going to be effective to use shock traps and or pitfall traps. Now, the section we want to focus on the most is going to be the obtainable materials. If we go into this, we can see that we have broken part rewards, carving, and severed part rewards. You can see if we break either the left or right wing, each gives us a 100% chance at a drop. We can also still get this from carving. Now, the way trapping works in Monster Hunter Wilds is you will automatically have that carving chance the second the monster is trapped. So even though it says carving, you still get those rewards from trapping. You can also see certain rewards are available for target rewards, and some are not. Like this Gore Magala feeler, we have a 100% chance from getting it when we break the antenna or from carving. Now, the tail can be a target reward, a carving, or trappable reward, and if we sever the tail, then we get an additional chance to carve that tail itself, giving us a 93% drop. So if you're fighting anything with a severable part, usually what you want to do is focus on severing that part and then trapping the creature afterwards once it's low enough health. This allows you to get the carve from the tail and a chance at getting another drop from that from your trap or carve rewards. Now, this is where things get interesting. Most monsters have one or two specific items that you can only get from destroying wounds. This could, in theory, be the only reason that you would want to spend more time fighting a monster instead of trapping it. Having that 20% extra time fighting may allow you to destroy more wounds. The only problem with this is the more wounds you inflict on a target, the harder and harder it becomes to inflict another wound. Meaning that by the time that the monster has 20% or less health, as it was the case when I fought this Gormagala without trapping it, the second it became ready to trap, I was never able to inflict another wound because we had already destroyed so many. So my personal belief is that the second the monster is able to be trapped, you destroy any open wounds that it does have and then trap it right after. Because then you can just get into another fight and inflict all of those new wounds on a new creature instead of wasting your time on that extra 20%. Y'all can debate this in the comments if you so desire. So the best process would be targeting breakable and severable parts on your creatures, inflicting as many wounds and breaking them as quickly as possible, and then so long as you have severed the tail if you need tails and gems, and broken the parts that you need, then trapping the creature so that way you can immediately get into another one to start farming up more materials. There are a few skills that you're going to want to be focusing on that are going to drastically increase the rewards that you're going to be getting when you're farming. One of the new ones is Flare. Each level of this makes it easier to inflict wounds and also deals more non-elemental damage when you are hitting those wounds. At level 5, it's going to be significantly easier to inflict wounds, and it also deals much more additional non-elemental damage. This is the main skill, especially when multiple people in one party are running Flare, that you're going to be inflicting tons of wounds at the beginning of the fight, but then the monster is going to be gaining resistance to this, and by the time it's ready to be trapped, you won't be able to inflict any more wounds. You're actually going to be farming up way more resources at the beginning of the fight rather than that extended 20%. So once you start stacking Flare, trapping monsters towards the end is going to be more and more important. The other skill you're going to want to be focusing on is Part Breaker. As we saw, many items are going to be obtained from breaking parts. So stacking Part Breaker increases part damage and dealt when conditions are met by 30%. This is going to make it a lot easier to break certain parts like heads, legs, wings, etc. But then also it's going to increase the damage dealt when destroying a wound with Focus Strike. So stacking both of these together is absolutely amazing. Keeping an eye on your investigations can be very important as well. It's going to be a good idea to kind of scroll through your map and see what rewards are being dropped by these various monsters, because what you can do is you can begin the field survey and hunt it immediately, or you can save it as an investigation. Saving it as an investigation is going to require these points, but will allow you to hunt this multiple times. So making sure to keep an eye on your map and what different types of monsters are available and what items they can drop can be super helpful. You'll notice that we just saved this Tempered Ray Dow investigation, and now we can hunt this one specifically 3 times. Now we can see here our obtainable rewards. Sometimes gems or other rare resources will be offered as a bonus reward. If we had a gem for this, we could then get the gem as a bonus reward and potentially from fighting and carving stuff from this creature. And then we could farm that up 3 times. Now, not all investigations will have a ton of attempts. This one only gave me 2, this one gives 3, some will give 4, and sometimes you'll only get 1. Now, what you can also do is search for these through SOS flares. You can hunt for a specific target, or any, and then you want to change the quest type to an investigation. Now, as you look through these investigations, you can look for rewards that specifically drop the items or things that you are looking for. Now, one additional thing you can do to help you find better investigations is to go into your tent and rest. If you rest, you can change the environment. I'm going to change this one to plenty, and you can change the time of day as well. Let's make this daytime, and you can see that it's also going to require these 300 points. We can go ahead and confirm this, which is going to change the current environment. Now, if we open up our map and look at the area, the monsters available to hunt has changed, as well as our active events. You can use this to change everything in the area depending on what you need. Now, I do really hope you found this video useful. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and hopefully, I'll see you all in the next one.